right, so let's get started. Welcome everybody. Hope y'all can hear me. Mic check. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to those of you that did show up from GA and from outside of the cohort as well. I appreciate the support. I appreciate you coming to hear, for what is, I guess, my story. So I wanted to welcome everybody. Start by saying, one second here. Thank you to those of you. Echo. There we go. Okay. Perfect. Sorry. If you can't tell, it is my first time. So it'll be a little rough around the edges, but I wanted to just kind of start by going into my background, kind of what led me to GA, just kind of go into my experience as a whole with GA, and then just kind of from there, I wanted to show you guys my capstone. It was something that I worked really hard on. I was extremely proud of it, and I feel like it's a good starting point for what would be my style of something that I'd hope to achieve in the industry. As I said, my name is Gore. If you know me, we've just spent the last 3 months together. If not, nice to meet you. I started out as a chef for the last 10 years before starting the GA program. I've started as a busser, dishwasher, a host at the very bottom of the barrel. And I worked my way up through the front end as a host, a server, expediter, busing, bartending, the whole nine in the front end, and I also did the same in the back end. I started as a dishwasher, learning prep, learning how to cook on the line, moving up to being a chef, and then from there getting into management. I've opened about 6 different restaurants. I've worked in everything from fine dining to a sports bar, sushi, Italian, you name it. I've probably touched on it at some point. And it taught me a lot as far as working under pressure, working efficiently. I got to meet a lot of great people, a lot of which I'm still friends today. And I just, got to get a new appreciation for food and wine. And, if you know me, that's something that I talk about quite often, whether it's, a dish that I had or, my perfect glass of wine or anything along those lines. I absolutely love the industry. I love the whole thing around food and friends and memories and all that. But as far as, the other end of that spectrum, the low end of being in the industry is, for the amount of hard work, it's a lot of long hours and a lot of missed days and a lot of missed memories. And another thing is, if you know me, is I'm a dad. I have a 10-year-old son. His name is Gavin, and he's been the light of my life for the last 10 years now, and everything that I do, I've done for him. He's my why. He's my motivation. And being in the restaurant industry, you lose a lot of that time that you would get with your family. So there were a lot of holidays that I missed, a lot of, milestones and events in his life that I had missed because I had to be at the restaurant. And as he's getting older, and as I'm getting older as well, I realized that at some point I need to make some sort of a change. I want to spend more time at home. I want to spend more time with Gavin than I do, wanting to be in a restaurant and wanting to, as much as I love learning and doing all that, my son is way more important than a plate of food. And so this past August, in the midst of the pandemic and all of this craziness that we're in, I made a phone call. I had been trying to do this for some time. I've gone through so many different admissions programs, whether it was Coding Dojo, Code Academy, Flatiron, Galvanize, so many different ones. And the biggest key factor, I guess, that steered me away is, they just treated me as a number. I wasn't, someone that was looking to make a career change to them. I wasn't someone that's trying to better their life. I was just a big chunk of money to them. And when I first called GA on a little bit of a whim, I'll have to admit I was pretty hesitant with my previous experience with other boot camps. And I know that she's not here, but I wanted to shout out my admissions rep, Megan. She was absolutely incredible and absolutely pivotal in me taking this giant leap. And it was just a great first impression. I felt like someone that was, that would have been appreciated, someone that wanted to learn and grow, and they seemed like, a school that was catering to that. So fast forward to 31st of August, it's day one. It was my first week in the class, and I was, safe to say, I was beyond terrified. I had no idea how this was going to go. I didn't know if I was going to even make it through the program. And looking back now, I can plainly say this is probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do, and I'm extremely proud that I was able to do it. Coming in as a chef that had little to no experience to someone that can make web apps and web pages and has vastly more knowledge than I would have even imagined of trying to teach myself. I went from being a kid, which was the last time that I actually learned anything, doing a simple video game page on GoldenEye on Nintendo 64, if that shows my age in any facet. That was my absolute favorite thing in the world, and that was my first webpage. And now, as you guys will see in a little bit, I've created something that is extremely unique and animated and a long way from just a little bit of HTML and CSS. And also, let's see, pre-work. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Other than that, I wanted to say, I wanted to just take a minute to just kind of throw in there, just say thank you to everyone, from instructors to classmates who are now friends who helped me through this. It definitely wasn't something that I would have been able to get through without all of you, and without my dad as well. You guys were all huge supports for me, and I can't even express the gratitude that I feel. Anywho, getting to GA, as I said, I had an extremely good first impression. I had a lot of support from the get-go as someone that had, absolutely no clue about it, making my way through the pre-work and the quizzes and the algorithms, which are still just the most terrifying thing in the world to me, and room for me to grow. But working with GA, doing the pre-work, doing everything, and then getting into the units, it was a really great learning experience. It was very visual, it was very audible. I learned by seeing and hearing, I learned by repetition, and it was great to have something like that in a comfortable setting for me, because I have to say, I definitely have an anxiety about learning in a classroom and being around other people that probably have way more knowledge than I do, and that's kind of where some of that imposter syndrome kicks in, and just an overall, I guess, lower confidence that I have in myself. All things that I've worked on some and that I've continued to work on. as far as, highs and lows would be, each new unit and each project brought on a different set of, emotions for me. My first project was making a portfolio for myself, and even from there to my first web page, going from a simple gaming site to a portfolio that shows, it's something that I created from scratch. And it was the first thing that I was very proud of. It was also, my first, big frustration. I'm the type of person that sets a higher standard for myself and is never really happy with how things end up. And that's, something that I need to work on as well, of accepting the small victories and, accepting the fact that I do know what I'm doing to some degree. And then moving to, Unit 2, which was where I was probably challenged the most above all else. But on the positive side, I realized early on when we did our Unit 2, which was React, that I absolutely love working in the front end. I want to take my chef qualities of making nice plates, of making good looking food, and translate that into making web pages the same way, making applications the same way. I want to be able to do that, and still be able to show my style, show my creativity, and share that with a lot more people than just a few diners in a restaurant. So it was extremely challenging, and there were many late nights that I would spend trying to figure out work, trying to figure out how to do certain things, trying to learn to get through that. And moving on, we had, Unit 3 was probably the scariest thing for me. It was working with a team. It was moving on to the back end, which, if you know me, you know that I'm not a back end guy in the slightest. It's definitely a huge growing point for me. That's something that I need to work on, but it was extremely intimidating. And I had just came off of our second project, which was a React project, and I had come off of an extremely low point. I just felt super overwhelmed, the imposter syndrome was for the first time getting really, really apparent. And going from that struggle to being, on the fence of, I was at the point of, I wanted to quit. And it was really difficult for me to find the motivation to want to keep going. And it was extremely hard. I mean, I ended up pushing through it, but it was a very difficult time for me, going from feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know if I'm good enough for this, to going to a complete unknown for me with Express and Node and all of the back end things, and getting more algorithm heavy and back end heavy. And it was just a lot of unknown, and unknown anxiety just getting placed on top of my back of what was already full of things. And it was another one of those instances where I wouldn't have been able to get through if it wasn't for my classmates, if it wasn't for one of my instructors. He gave me a lot of great advice, and I took the advice that I got from friends, from my instructor, and I took it to heart, and I tried to use that to help motivate myself. One of a few of the things were, make sure to your usual make sure to take time for yourself. But for me, it was, make sure to write your thoughts down. Get everything on paper, get everything out of your head, process it. And another huge one for me was, take time every day to do some sort of research. Try to teach yourself something new. Try to help yourself be better, help yourself grow. And just kind of, those are two of the things that really stuck with me, and those are two of the things that I've tried to adopt throughout my day in the last half of the cohort, and the stuff that I look to take with me moving forward. So now moving on to our last unit, which was my capstone. Very excited to show you guys what this is. And on that note, let's see if I can do this. So to show you guys that, what my capstone is a personal blog of mine. It kind of goes over the things that I've spoken about, and I wanted to basically have a unique, in a sense, little black book of my own, a place where I could post, thoughts of what I'm feeling, anything that I'm going through, anything that might be inspiring for me, and just have a safe place where I could hold my thoughts and not have to worry about me dwelling on them and them kind of festering. So another thing is, it's aptly called Little Black Book. It is an ode to the instructor that I mentioned. His name is Joe. I believe he's in here tonight, so shout out to you, Joe. I still can't thank you enough for everything. And as I've told a handful of you, this was my ode to Joe, basically. It's a little black book, if you will, where I have some of my thoughts. And just to kind of show you guys, so I wanted to make something that was extremely, unique to me. That was, as I said, a style that I want to have, of something interesting design, interesting animations, very visually appealing. We'll just kind of demo that here for you. As I mentioned, these are, blog entries, just thoughts that I've had throughout the cohort, things that I was going through, and I wanted to kind of showcase, words and thoughts of, what I was feeling at the time to, a certain degree, and, kind of showcase that with images. As you can see, I have an image from my first portfolio page. That was my first, real, I created something, this is mine, I made it from scratch, and I was, extremely proud of what it turned out to be. To, as you can see, to feeling a little bit alone, feeling extremely alone in the dark, not really knowing where my head is at, to, the one thing that I did want to share is, to everyone who's here, who's in the cohort with me, is, this quote really, really meant something to me. It's, you didn't come this far to only come this far. We're all, myself including, we all made it through this huge journey, and, we've all come out better on the other side. We're all going to grow together, and, this entry to me was, a way for me again to say thank you to everyone. Like I said, I wouldn't have done it without all of you guys, and I, words can't express, how thankful I am for you. But to go through the rest, it's basically just kind of an about me. Here was my thank you to Joe. As I had mentioned, about halfway through, as I mentioned already, I was at an extremely low point, and that's kind of looking back, that's where a lot of the inspiration from this came from, was a place to house my thoughts. And, this could really be a place for anyone, to do the same. Just kind of demoing through the rest. I have my LinkedIn, emails, GitHubs, and then, the premise behind this was also, something that I could use. Also, here's my son. For those of you that haven't seen him or seen him enough, here's more pictures. But anyway, going back, the project itself, is something that I created for myself, but it's also something that I would like to share with anyone, to help someone have something unique for themselves as well, where they can post their thoughts, where they can showcase their thoughts, showcase their work, anything along those lines. It would be there for them, in the way that it has been, and it will be for me. Lastly, I want to show you as well the inspiration behind my design. So I was taking that advice. I was doing research one day, and I would always look up like unique website layouts, unique designs, anything along those lines. And I came across, this page, and I was absolutely blown away by it. Of the functionality of it, the look of it, the liveliness of it, and I immediately knew this was something that I wanted to try to recreate. And, put my spin on it, my sort of style on it. I wanted to say that I can make, something similar to it. And as you can see, it's extremely animated. It's very colorful. And when I saw it, I knew that it would probably be the hardest thing that I was going to do. But at the same time, I knew right out the gate, I had to make this. There's isn't a project that I think I could have thought of or found that would be more me, in a sense, more of something that I wanted to do. I couldn't stop talking about it enough. I'd sent it to everyone and said, this is what I'm going to try to make. I sent it to my instructors and I said, this is what I'm going to try to make, and tried to get any, just share in the excitement and get any sort of, support or advice or anything regarding it. And, it was extremely challenging. It took quite a while to, figure out the base of things. The biggest challenge for me for this was, going into the final project, again, still not being very sure of myself, not really knowing, what's gonna come. We're at the end of the road, and it's, things are about to get really real, and I wanted to do something great, but at the same time, I wasn't sure if I would even be able to pull it off. And along with that was a lot of late nights of trying to figure out just simple animations, a lot of research, a lot of Googling, and just kind of dealing with my emotions at the same time too. I felt extremely behind going into this. I was looking at other people's projects coming together, trying to, see where they were at, try to help people where I could, and, just as kind of an escape for me to not have to worry about my imposter syndrome and worry about if I'm even going to be able to finish this and if it's going to be good enough, and, kind of all of those, that entire roller coaster of emotions. It was, even now, it's still hard for me to accept and try to even process the feelings of seeing how great everyone else's project came out, and thinking to myself, was mine really good enough? And did I really do enough? And it's definitely a battle. But any on that note, one of the things that I did want to showcase, because it was my first real moment of I think I can do this, was right here. Was making this work was my first real bat of excitement of, oh my god, I can do this, I can make this work. Was this right here, this little chunk of code saying move the circles from point A to point B on click. And I was very proud of it, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. Basically, what was going on, to me is, when basically React is saying when you click, on the simplest level, when you click, transition the circles in. We have, a function that's saying with, when the circle is clicked, when the black circle is clicked, or the blue one, basically transition everything to the center, load that page. We have on clicks, we have a boatload of ternaries, and as I said, it's this is probably one of my proudest moments, was getting this to work, and I just wanted to show that little bit of a snippet. But anywho, moving forward, this the project to me, I would say, is a good, as was told to me, it's a good first iteration. I feel, on the positive side of things, I feel happy with what came out of it. I feel like this is a great point for me to take this and to grow with it, and to have it come with me through my developer journey moving forward, with, as I grow, being able to learn more, and seeing where I can apply that, and seeing how I can refactor the code, and if there's a certain way that I could do something better, and just keep making iterations and keep adding entries to it, and keep making this a place where I can share my thoughts, and where I can share them with others, so they can kind of see where I'm at, and kind of take the journey with me, and see where my head is at with things. But other than that, I wanted to say, as as a developer moving forward now, having to go on the job hunt, I wanted to just kind of touch on a few goals of mine. Was, having done this, I feel like, there's a lot more things that I can accomplish, and I feel like I have a lot more confidence moving into, new chapters in my life, in addition to becoming a developer, and, trying to get a job. A few of the other things that I want to work on is I want to be able to help people. One of my hugest motivational factors for this was I wanted to start a teaching business. I want to be able to coach kids. I'm working on a charity. I'm going to be working on a coaching business where I can basically do whatever I can to help as many people as possible. I want to be able to teach kids that want to learn. I want to be able to teach kids to help them have a better future for themselves, and whether it's something that they want to take with them, or if it's just a personal thing that they want to learn, or or even more importantly, is I want to be able to help underprivileged kids that may not have the means to do so, that may not have the support that they need to follow their dreams like I'm trying to do. I want to be able to be that light for other people, as as the lights that I've had throughout this, with Joe, with all of my friends, classmates, my dad. I want to be a light for someone else, as others have been a light for me as well. and again, on closing notes, I just wanted to say again, thank you to everyone for being here. I really appreciate you listening to me talk and being here for this, what is another milestone of being able to do my first meetup. It's still, as you can tell, it's still very nerve-wracking. I'm on the same roller coaster. But I wanted to ask if anybody have any questions, or is there anything you guys would like to know more of? Anything else that I can touch on at this point? Other technology outside of React that you used for your capstone. Okay. So we have the question of, can you talk about the other technologies outside of React that you used for your capstone? So during the inception, I guess, of this project, it went from originally of something that I wanted to make in Next.js and use Sass and add a whole list of other features to it. It was something that ended up being simplified. What I did end up using was Contentful. It was my first time using Contentful throughout the cohort, basically storing the entries. It was my first time not creating an API or not using someone else's API. It was my first time making it, and it was definitely a challenge for me to kind of go through that while trying to figure out how to make animations work, and while trying to refamiliarize myself with a lot of the basics of React that I unfortunately had forgotten about to some degree, just because we hadn't touched on it in so long. But I will say, learning Contentful was extremely interesting. It was something that is very convenient, and it's something that I want to use with me as a freelancer, or even in general with any projects. Just get way more familiar with the usability of it, to be able to render pictures, render whatever information I can, aside from just a simple entry. It's definitely a vast pool of things for me to read through and experiment with and learn from, and it's another thing that I plan on growing with and getting way more familiar with, because it is an amazing tool to have. But so I'll overcome obstacles. The biggest way that I can say I overcame obstacles would be, advice to anyone is to have a support system. That was my biggest key thing, was know when to take a break and know who you're going to have for support. Have those people that you can shoot a message to, or call or text, that will be there and will give you advice or help you kind of get through an anxiety attack or get through any sort of panic that you're feeling, and just make sure you have that foundation for yourself. It's been, as I've said already many times, it's been extremely pivotal for me. It's been so important for me to have, and for me to even get through the program, and it's something that I plan on having moving forward. It's something that everybody should have, and that's it. Any other questions from anybody? Just give that a minute. Awesome. Well, alrighty. Looks like we don't have any questions. So again, thank you guys for coming out for my first presentation. I definitely am glad that I took this step, and I wanted to say thank you to Jason, say thank you to James for giving me the opportunity and for allowing me to come speak for you guys. And hopefully, let's see. Oh, we got another question. Let's see. Favorite part of the cohort, future plans. Okay. Favorite part of my cohort was, I'd say the favorite thing that I had was the Fridays after project presentations, where everyone would just kind of get to decompress and get to know each other, and just, it was some of the most fun that I've had in a while, just kind of hanging out, having a glass of wine, just talking about whatever we felt like talking about. And a lot of my favorite memories are during those 4 Fridays and the one Monday that we had of doing that. And let's see, future plans. So future plans for the capstone for my project would be getting it more animated. What I would like to do is I would like to add more transitions to the entries, a opposite sliding in and out of the page, on loading the page and upon exiting the page. I would like to have that. I would like to make it a lot more more mobile friendly, more tablet friendly. That was one of the things that I didn't get to do to the degree that I would have liked. I'd like to add just a little more functionality on that end, where if someone looks at it on their phone, or even if I use it on the phone as well, that it'll look a lot cleaner and it'll look a lot nicer. I want to make, to a degree, I want to make it as animated as possible without overloading it, and maybe even add some more components to it, add more entries to it, just kind of build it out as much as I can. And then other than that is, once I get to the point of responsiveness and animations that I want, I would like to continue to refactor the codes and make it as clean as possible, on the front end and, in the code itself. And thank you, Jason, for the kind words. I am still in disbelief myself that I'm 3 days out of the cohort and I'm doing something as crazy as this, which, is something. But like I said, thank you again to you for posting that, for giving me the opportunity to even talk. Thank you again to James. I appreciate the opportunity again. I would love to come back at some point. I'd love to continue doing this. This was just an icebreaker for me. Thank you, Sampreet. I appreciate the kind words as well. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, I would like to say again thank you and wish you all a good night, and I will see you on Slack, Discord, LinkedIn. Would love to keep learning from you guys, would love to keep growing with you guys. Hope everyone has a great night, and I will see you around. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you as well, Hannah. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you again.